Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
It's so terribly important to break free of what's expected of you, and if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you're in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals, and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and conversational fashion. And if you like how we do things around here, I'm assuming you do because you listen to the podcast, you can subscribe. You can find us at Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, basically wherever you get your podcasts. And plus, we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would truly appreciate it. Also, check us out on the social media, as the kids are calling it. You can find us on the Facebook, or whatever it's called now, the Twitter, and the Instagram for all sorts of updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large, because if we love to write about it and watch it and talk about it, we love it when you come and read about it. So please stop on by. On this episode, we got a good one. We had some technical snafus that hung us up earlier this week, but we are talking a little more Hell Hath No Fury, which is in theaters now for our neighbors in the States, and it is a fantastic little independent war film from our friends at Will Go USA, starring the likes of Timothy V. Murphy, Louis Mandylor, Nina Bergman, and the one and only Daniel Bernhardt, who we are talking to today. And if that name kind of rings a bell, well, it should, because he is an actor, he is a stuntman. If you love your action movies, you would have seen him in anything from, in his earlier days, like Bloodsport 2 and 3, Perfect Target, which bore things like opportunities in the Matrix franchise and John Wick. And we talk about his role here as von Brooker, the German SS officer, who's nasty but also kind of likable at the same time. It's a really interesting character study in this film. But we talk with Daniel about how he got the part and just sort of business in general, and so very much more. He was a delight to talk to, so I hope you enjoy it.
I'm totally fine. No, hopefully more than a few minutes.
Well,
my
no,
friend.
actually, well, that's the plan. So, yeah.
Yeah. And we can go over a little bit because we lost 5 minutes, I think.
Now, I mean, obviously, first off, just congratulations on the film, man. I really enjoyed it. I thought you were great in it. And I mean, I guess my first question is, like, walk me through finding this script on your desk, because I mean, it's nice to see you not being the heavy that has to kick people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was actually really funny. How do I say that? A good friend of mine called me up and said, "Hey, listen, you got to meet this guy Jesse. He's a former stunt guy. He's a great director. He makes all these action movies. You and guys should meet." Then about a week later, I met another guy saying, "Hey, you got to meet this guy, Jesse." I was like, "Hey, what is it with everybody meeting Jesse?" And then so our mutual friends put us together. Jesse and I met, and we just totally hit it off. I remember we met about maybe like a year and a half ago, had coffee, and just realized we're both extremely passionate about movies. We just talked about our favorite movies, about fight scenes, about characters, about actors, about writing, about directing, about producing, and we just had an amazing time. And then we left it off by saying, "Hey, listen, hopefully one day we can work together." About maybe 6 months later, he calls me, he goes, "Hey, Daniel, remember I told you about I maybe have something?" And he goes, "I got the script." And at the time, it was called Ave Marie. It's not an action movie, it's a drama. But there's an amazing character that I think you'd be wonderful for. It's a German SS officer who's in love with a French resistance fighter. You speak French, English, and German. I was like, "Yeah, would you be interested?" "No, of course." So I read the script, fell in love with the script, and the rest is history, right?
I mean, it's such an interesting character piece too, because I mean, nobody's all that likable, but at the same time, everyone's still kind of sympathetic at the same time. Everyone's sort of playing back and forth on all these ideas. Like I'm guessing for you, how did you sort of find the mindset of the character? Because I mean, he's kind of likable, but he's still a bad guy, and there's so many dynamics going on between not just you and Nina's character, but really everybody.
You know, to me, when I read the script, I just fell in love with that. He was a guy. It was the war.
Yeah.
Everybody did what they had to do. And he fell in love with this girl. He was in love. He didn't like what he was doing. I mean, my character stole from the Nazis. I stole from my own people to escape with her, to elope with her. I had this fantasy that her and I can go off somewhere after the war. And I don't know if you remember that scene in the bedroom where we have this scene, you know, we're looking at the gold and I'm talking to her about, I want to escape with you. And then we move on and we have a life together, not knowing I got all tricked.
Now, when I was talking to Jesse, that was one of the earlier scenes that you got to shoot. Is that right?
Actually, the first scene we shot was the shot in the car. Okay. That was literally the first day of shooting, the scene in the car, her laying in my lap, me doing this French monologue for her, us being in love, which is, you know, a tough scene to do as your first scene.
Yeah.
And I remember we shot all of my scenes in like the first week. They were all back to back, which is turning out a lot of people really like that part of the movie. They love our story and our relationship. You know,
is this the first time you've ever had a romance on screen? Because I mean, I'm trying to think back, and I'm going this might actually be the first one you've gotten to do.
It's not the first. I've had other romantic scenes, but not many. I mean, I can count them on one hand.
Okay.
Even like maybe 2 or 3, and that was it. And you know, I'm a little more experienced now. I'm a little bit older, and it's not something that I'm really like, hey, let me go find a romantic movie. But that was very special, I thought, you know, because it was all about the script.
Yeah.
Everybody fell in love with that script. Everybody said the same thing. What an amazing script. What amazing characters. I mean, Nina's character is fantastic. Tim's character is fantastic. I mean, everybody's character is just amazing.
No, it's such a compelling story. And I mean, I love it. And I mean, I guess my next question is for you is because I go back with you. I go back to the Bloodsport days. I've known your work for a long, long time. And I mean,
that makes me sound very, very, very old, doesn't it?
No, but I mean, you kind of came into this business almost in a trial by fire kind of scenario. Can you walk me through sort of, I guess, maybe those early days of getting started as an actor?
So I just want to pull up all the names to say everybody's name right. Yeah. All right. So I don't know if you know, but back in the 80s and 90s, like mid 80s to like early 90s, I was in the fashion business.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that. I was living in New York. I was living in between Paris, New York, and Miami. At that moment of my life, I was in New York, working as a model, and I was cast. There was a casting for Gianni Versace TV commercial starring Jean-Claude Van Damme, shot by a very famous photographer called Bruce Weber. A buddy of mine, my buddy Bruce Hulse, calls me up and he goes, "Hey, Daniel, they're casting. You should go in." I went in. I met Bruce Weber, got the job. Next couple of days, we started shooting, went on set. I remember it was a beautiful loft in New York, downtown New York. And Jean-Claude shows up. And at the time, that was right after he did Bloodsport. He may have done Kickboxer already, but it was around that time. And I was a huge fan. You know, I was a martial artist, huge Van Damme fan. He was just the best. We all totally adored him because he brought such a new way of martial arts into the movie business back in the 80s and 90s. And he was really fantastic. I mean, he still is fantastic, but back then he was just exceptional. And I remember him coming in. He was super nice. "Hey guys, how are you? You know, we're doing this commercial. Who knows martial arts?" I was like, "Meh." And he goes, "Well, show me what you can do." And I start kicking. He goes, "Oh, very good. I take you last." So for the first time in my life, I have the experience to do a fight scene on camera.
Right.
And it just blew my mind. I just realized that this is what I have to do in life. So I kind of decided to made myself a reel, moved to LA. People saw the reel. offered me Bloodsport 2. The producer from Bloodsport called me, offered me Bloodsport 2, went to LA. And then, of course, everybody said, oh, you're going to be the next guy, whatever. And of course, it didn't happen for another 2 years. So I'm sitting in LA, going through acting class, training with Grandmaster Heel Cho, preparing for the movie. And then Mark Dessal lost the rights and it went to somebody else. And we finally made it in 95. But still, it was my first movie. It was an amazing experience. And now, like, what, 26 years later.
Well, no, but I mean, that kind of dovetails into something else, like I've been dying to ask, because I'm kind of curious. I mean, obviously something like this film, which you're great in, obviously, again, it was a budget shoot. It was a bit smaller. And historically, you've done a lot of like lower budget, quick shoot kind of stuff, but you've also been involved in these massive films as well, where it takes a village. And I mean, I'm kind of curious, what was that transition like when you got the call to go like, oh, my 3-week shirt just turned into a 4-month shoot in Australia kind of thing?
It's funny you're saying Australia, because I was supposed to be in Australia right now, but we switched it to Prague. It makes really no difference to me. Like, I put the same effort in Hell Have No Fury. It was like shot in a month. Yeah. Or a film I'm doing right now, I'm in Prague filming, that's going to go for 5 months. It makes no difference. I put in the same effort, the same time. It's, for me, always the same. It makes no difference if it's a $1 million movie or a $100 million movie. My effort is the same. I put in the same energy. Once I say yes to a project, I give you everything. That's just how I've always been. It makes no difference to me. I've done a lot of those lower budget movies in like the early mid 90s to like the early 2000s, and they were fun. They were fun, man. Bloodsport 2, Perfect Target, True Vengeance. Those were films. Mortal Kombat Conquest. I mean, it was fun.
Absolutely.
We had such a good time, and we could do whatever we wanted. I had my little team together, and guess who my team was?
Tell me.
Chad Stahelski, fight coordinator. Brad Martin, stunt coordinator. David Leach, cast member, and then fight coordinator. I mean, that's how far we go back. Think about it. 95.
And it's wild. It's wild to see that evolution.
But Chad did my best fight scene in Bloodsport 2 was with Chad. So we hired him to do Bloodsport 3. He choreographed all the fights, shot all the fights. And then True Vengeance, it was him and Brad Martin who did all the fight choreography, which was, I thought, just outstanding. Even if you look at it today, it's like, damn, we did good. And then we did a movie together called Perfect Target, which was a lot of fun. And that's when I met David Leach for the first time. He was a teacher. That was his first movie set experience, one of my movies. And now he's like one of the biggest directors in the world. It's just crazy. It's crazy.
It's like, I mean, and that's, again, I think that's something else I'd love to ask, because getting this experience, and again, these lower budget films that are obviously a lot of fun, but then you're translating it to something like Wick, where you're having a budget, but you're still trying to have the same level of fun. Like, how does that transfer with, especially when the money's involved?
There was really no difference. I've been working with the same guys for 26 years. We're like a team. We all work together. We know each other really well. When John Wick came around, I was so happy for Chad and Dave that they got the chance to direct. And they came up to me and they said, "Hey, we got a spot for you. Do you want to do it?" I was like, "Do I want to do it? How much do you have to pay? How much do I owe?" And they hired me, and it was one of the great life experiences. Living in New York with them, spending time on set every day. And John Wick was a budget. It was not a huge budget. It's probably 30,
That's right. Yeah.
For a studio, that's a smaller budget, and just everybody killed it. I mean, that movie just made movie history.
When you're composing sort of these big elaborate fight scenes, how important is that level of trust? Because I mean, obviously from the likes of Jackie Chan to Chad and you guys, like there are relationships that are there that seem to be really important to bring the sort of on-screen material up to the next level.
If you kind of look at Chad and Dave, they kind of hire the same people. So there's a certain trust and there's a certain understanding. We're a team, we work together, we train together every day. Like when we did John Wick 1, it was John Valera and Jojo Eusebio, who were doing the fight choreography, and we trained together every day. So they knew what I could do. I knew what they could do. So it's all just kind of like hand in hand, and it makes it much easier than going outside, finding new people. You don't really know how good they are. Yeah, so they've been calling on me a lot, which makes me very happy that I'm working, but of course I have to work really hard too. Sometimes I still have to go and get the jobs. It's not that they're just given to me now. It's like, hey, what about me? Let me do something.
But I mean, I think that goes back to this film, because again, I'm kind of curious, like, was there any sort of trepidation going into something like this when it wasn't a question of, okay, I'm not necessarily using my martial arts. It was more about me. It was more about sort of the character work as opposed to sort of your previous action work.
It's funny you're asking. It's something that I really enjoy is acting. The whole time I've been cast mostly in these kind of action movies.
Right.
But I've always taken acting very seriously. I've been in acting class for years and years and years. Like any other actor, I studied, I did scene work. I worked with dialect coaches. I spent time in acting class for, probably 15 years. I'm not in class right now. But I've always tried in every film to kind of create a character. And if you look at my work, like, John Wick is the John Wick character. The character I played in John Wick is different than Atomic Blonde. Then I played a character in Barry, which is very different. So I really try to always give the character like its own personality a little bit.
No, absolutely.
Now, of course, they're action roles. But when this came along, I was like, are you kidding me? But I don't know if I could have done something. I could have done something like this 10 years ago or 5 years ago, but probably not in the same way. Right. I'm definitely much deeper, much more experienced now. I've become an actor, I think, where I'm kind of fearless. I don't have any shame. I can do anything. You ask me to play this, I'm like, okay, and I'll go research it and I'll study it and I'll work on it really hard and I'll do it. Like, for an example, for Hell Have No Fury, I prepared for probably 2 months. I speak French, but not fluent anymore. I used to be fluent about, in my 20s and 30s.
Right.
Lost it once I moved. But so I had to learn French, kind of relearn French. I speak German, but I had to work on my German dialect because I'm Swiss and I have a slight accent in my German. I worked very hard on my German American dialect. That was really important for the film too, to have that slight accent. And then I did a lot of research, watching war movies and documentaries. It was very, very important to me that this was very authentic. Do you remember there's a scene in the weapons depot?
Oh, yeah.
To another guy.
Yeah.
To one of my underlings. And we've talked a lot about how we're planning to escape. And we've talked about, what happened. But every word I've said in this monologue is I researched what it was. What happened, how many people died, what was going on, what was our involvement, how did we escape? I did so much research on that. So when I said it, that I really knew what I was talking about.
And I absolutely love that, because you have these sort of epic monologues and diatribes in the film, and you really sell them excellently, and we really get sort of invested in sort of the emotion of the moment. And I'm kind of curious, I've got to ask, what ultimately sparked your love for the business? Because I'm always fascinated by the fact that no one has a straight line into the movie business. It's always one avenue or another. There is no sort of one career path kind of thing.
No, please. Yeah, it's really funny. I was born and raised in Switzerland. Just the thought of being in the movie business was like, it was not even existing.
Right.
It was like, you wouldn't even think about it. Then when I was modeling in Paris, even then I was a model, but I would never think about being an actor because it just never even crossed my mind. But now going back, when I was 15, like 16, after high school, in Switzerland, what's very popular, you do like what's called an apprenticeship, which I did for 4 years. And you get a diploma and you learn a job and you learn a trade. I was a technical engineer. That's what I studied. And to make some extra money, one of the guys I worked with said, hey, listen, I work at a movie theater. I'm an usher, and that's how I get a pass to watch movies for free. And already at the time, my biggest passion was watching movies. For me to go to the movie theater, sitting down, the lights turning down, the curtains opening up, for me was always the greatest thing. And I could escape in this different world. And I remember as a child just watching these movies, and I was just fascinated. But I never made the connection that I could be in the movie business. I never did. But if you really go back, it was already at very young age that I loved movies. And then getting into the fashion business, which people say maybe got it a step closer, but not really. I did commercials, and then getting the chance to do a commercial with Van Damme, and then getting the chance to do Bloodsport 2. I mean, that was all then step. I always believed if you see a door opening, take it.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I mean, I just love how you speak about your joy of the movies, and that kind of transitions into something else I've got to ask. I know you probably can't give me a lot of details, but I mean, when Matrix first happened, it was obviously such a game changer for fans in the world of cinema to sort of have that curtain open up and go into this other world. How was it for you to sort of get that call and go like, wait, we're going back, we're doing another one?
I want to jump back real quick to number 2. I remember, going back to Chad in 8711, Chad and I were really good friends. And I remember after we worked together on Perfect Target, that was in 96. I think he went immediately after he got cast to double Keanu, and he went to Australia to shoot Matrix. And I just remember him coming back and going, you don't even understand what we did. And I remember seeing the first Matrix, and I was just blown away what they did. I couldn't believe it. I sat in the theaters back to back. I watched it twice. I was absolutely fascinated, blown away what they did with the fight scenes, with the characters, with the visual effects, with just everything, the acting. And I became a huge fan. And then a couple of years later, I got a call from Chad again saying, Daniel, they're casting number 2. Get your agent to send you in. And I remember going in, but everybody was there. Everybody I knew was there. I was like, oh, damn. And then I got the call. I was actually the first upgrade agent that was cast. And I got the call, and I started training with Keanu and Wu Ping. It was just amazing. Just the chance to be in a movie like that. Matrix Reloaded. Think about it.
Yeah.
It's nuts, crazy. If you think about it, in my career, I've worked on some of the coolest franchises. Bloodsport. Who gets a chance to do that, right? Matrix, Mortal Kombat, John Wick.
That dovetails into the next question, man. Like, how have you managed to stay consistent? Because since Bloodsport 2, like, you've basically worked pretty consistently ever since. Like, is there a secret, or is it just the hustle?
It's always like this. It's always like that. There were times that business suddenly went down. Do you remember in the, I want to say early 2000s or late 90s, when that whole video thing kind of crashed?
That's right. Yeah.
It was tough to get a job. All the low budget movies were out the window. Those were all, I came in the game at the very tail end of that low budget, straight to DVD craze.
Yeah.
Or straight to VHS. I came at the very, very end. There were a lot of guys who still already were working. I was one of the last ones. I was lucky. I made about 5-6 movies, and the business went like this, just went down. I was very fortunate at the time. I did Mortal Kombat. I was cast, Larry Kasanoff cast me in Mortal Kombat. So I was busy for a year doing a TV show, which was great. And I never forget, I had lunch or dinner with my agent when I came back, and he says, yeah, business is dead. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, yeah, those movies are gone. And then I had to kind of reinvent myself. And, I remember I did a TV show for like 6 months called Desire, which was kind of like a soap. But there really wasn't anything. Matrix was there, but then after Matrix, there really wasn't, like, I didn't get any like huge gigs, and I had to kind of reinvent myself. And that's when I decided to become an action actor. That's what Chad said. You're an action actor. And then, John Wick, Parker, actually it was Parker, Ninja Turtles. And then I just started to work more in the world of acting and stunts, which is really funny. Before, I was an actor who did his own fight scenes. Then I was a fight guy who does it. No, first I was hang on a second. Not that I'm butchering my own, I'm butchering my own story. I was an actor who could do his own fight scenes. Now I'm a fight guy, stunt guy, does his own acting. So either way, it's the same thing. Just choose how you want to hire me. Isn't that funny?
But it's kept you relevant. It's kept you versatile as well, because I mean, again, not everyone can do their own stunts, but not everyone can speak 3 languages either, which allows just so many more opportunities out there. And I mean, just to start putting a bow on this, I'm kind of curious, especially with Hell Laughing and Fury coming out and people are going to see it. At the end of the day, like, what's your hope going forward? To do more films like this, or to try to mix it up as best you can with the big stuff and the smaller stuff, or with the more character driven stuff versus the more sort of action driven stuff? Like, what do you want to do going forward?
Can you not ask me anything more difficult? Listen, I always say the same thing. I am so grateful that I'm working. I've kind of learned over the years, if I decide, I just want to do dramas, I let the universe, I let the world decide what I'm going to do. I mean, I still push for what I want to do, but there's some kind of like a higher power who will guide me the right way, and the right jobs will come along. Like last year, I did a movie, or this year, I did a movie where I was the fight coordinator and I did a great part. Then I did a movie where I was just the actor, like Hell Hath No Fury. Then I did a movie where I was kind of like a stunt actor, and I did a fight scene with The Rock. You can hire me in 5 different ways. And as long as I can work, and then I'm happy.
What would the Daniel now say to the Daniel back in the Bloodsport and Perfect Target days?
Thank God I didn't stop. Keep going, brother.
Well, you know what, brother? Keep going, and thank you for the time today, man. This was a hell of a lot of fun. I really appreciate it. I've been a big fan for a while. I'm so happy we got to talk.
I really appreciate it, and I think everybody killed it in our movie. I think Jesse completely slayed this movie. I think Nina killed it. I think I got very lucky. The rest of the cast was great. The stunts were great. I mean, this was something else, I think.
I get to talk to Nina tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to that.
I'll give her my regards, okay?
I will, for sure.
She killed it.
But thanks again for the time, man, and keep up the good work.
All right, you got it, man. Adios. Right. Ciao.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.